Greetings! Hello everybody! I hope you guys are all doing well, having a great day. So we're going to go over our next assignment called Earthworks. So earthwork departs from the confines of a gallery or museum spaces to create artworks directly in the landscape, created from materials found in nature. So the earth, so to speak, is the canvas or the material that is being used for the artist. There are site-specific works and earthworks. Sculptural forms made of earth, rocks, and sometimes plants typically can be the materials. Site-specific works almost are never sold. So when an artist uses the land, typically it's for an experience or to communicate, convey some sort of meaning behind it. But more than likely it will be used in that aspect and not to be sold or released for prints. Contemporary artworks are large-scale environmental pieces in which the earth is an important component. Earthwork artists not only use natural materials but are also responsive to the specific sites. Let's go ahead and look at the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio. Now this is from the Art 101 class that we've studied already in our textbook. This is through the Mississippian culture. It was built around 1070 CE, and we're not entirely sure what it all means, but we're thinking it's responding to Halley's Comet in 1066. So we can see that there's a mound. It looks like a snake. It's coiling around the edges, and then it just has a raised up hill, so to speak, with these different types of shapes and forms that squiggle through the landscape. Here's again the Great Serpent Mound. And also here's Spiral Jetty. Now Spiral Jetty is more of a contemporary artwork in the 70s. There are artists that are creating earthworks today and throughout many different times and years through the centuries, but we're only going to highlight a couple in this quick little lecture. So Robert Smithson created Spiral Jetty, and this is actually in the Great Salt Lake, Utah, so it's not as far from our region of California. This is a large earthwork. So he was the founder of Earthworks, the movement. In and out of view, responding to the changes of water level. So you can see from this image, let's go back to it here, we had water back in the past, this is in the 70s, and so there's this coiling of rock, dirt, and just the natural elements from the land where you can actually walk on top of the surface in this spiral. So over here in the background where my cursor's at, this is where you would park, and then you would step down and you would walk across this coiled surface. Sometimes the water would recede higher, so then you wouldn't even see these shapes, and sometimes it would recede down. So I'm so thankful, everyone. Last year I was able to get the privilege to go out and see. We have some family in Utah, and check this out. So this is a current picture from 2020. And you can see that here is the same Spiral Jetty. However, if you look at this pink area way in the back, that is where the water is. So it has receded quite a bit. So now the Spiral Jetty is completely exposed. You can see that the rock is from the natural elements that are right here. This is the parking lot here, so I'm taking it from the faraway view. So rocks, dirt, salt, and water, drawn to desolate and remote locations. This is overall what artists who are creating works from the earth are into or interested in. Desolate and remote locations, from abandoned industrial sites to uncultivated deserts and mountains. Artists from the 60s created often colossal sculptural pieces in nature, movement of land art. Now this was in the 60s, this, as we see, 70s, this is when this was created. But again, artists are continuing to create land art or earthworks up in present culture. So I just want to share a little bit, you guys, some like personal pictures here. But it was definitely a desolate location. So this was just dirt, So we went on a dirt path, couple miles out beyond the paved land. Cell phone reception was not as strong out there. So it's good to have a full tank of gas, have your water. It was hot. We went out in August last year, so it was warm, just like we have here in the desert location. But it was a really fun experience. And so, of course, here's a little picture because I've only studied these pictures or these sites sometimes in our textbooks throughout the years, and even when I was a student, only seen them through photographs. So it's really fun to experience these in firsthand. There are some people who were there. There's some people way in the back, and they were walking to the water. We did not go, well, once we got there, there was about maybe 5 cars parked. So it was really neat to see that people were actually traveling out there middle of the weekday just to check out and see the site. So it was really fun. This is called, again, the Spiral Jetty, and this is in Utah. So our assignment, and I just want to put this in bold, that we don't want to disrupt any natural elements, but create a simple design that can easily be removed. When we were face-to-face, I would take my classes out and we would actually work in the natural elements of the campus. And so sometimes I would have students want to put rocks on the grass to create some sort of structure or something, but we had to remove it. We weren't able to do that just because, as we know, when we put a rock on the grass, then the grass area will wither and die since the sun is not hitting it. So just be aware of your environments. If you do have access to a backyard or a front yard or your own property, that's great that you're able to manipulate it the way that you would like to. But just be conscious and respectful to any public spaces or empty fields in the environment to not disrupt that. Another good point with land art or earthworks is that artists always want to be conscious of the environment, because if for some reason, let's go back to Spiral Jetty here. If the artist wanted to actually use plastic, maybe black plastic rocks that were painted to make the spiral, then we have to think about the environmental concerns. So let's just pretend, or let's just talk about this, just if they were rocks that were painted, eventually from the water, the hitting of that pressure, what could happen is the paint particles could get into the water themselves, and let's just say a fish would eat it or consume it. And then that can affect the ecosystem, or can create a die-off, or just create a sickness in specific species or animals. Also, let's say if the spiral, let's just look in this little spiral here, let's just say now the sun no longer shows through this area because now we have this platform. So maybe there was some little indigent plants that were here, little small wildlife, and now because the sun isn't shining in that location, then it affects again the environment. So again, I'm just making these up, but anytime we work with the land, as artists, we just have to be very conscious to not actually affect or change the way the earth creates itself and continues on. Okay, so here are some specific earthworks. Some of these are from last semester, some of these are from previous years, but this is on grass. This was the student's backyard. So rocks, and then we have different types of debris. Some of these are dead plants, some of them are freshly cut off leaves, but really neat to see this structure and how they used even a pattern of different colored rocks. So you have like this whiter rock versus the brown rock. This other one here is on the dirt, and this is looking straight down. This was actually supposed to be like a sundial to tell the time. The artist had a whole story behind it. But the different rocks we have here, the black and also the white, and then we have a stack of rocks. Again, this is taken from an aerial perspective, so we don't see the stack maybe as easily. I want to let you guys know too, because we are in the summer, please feel free that you are welcome to take the natural elements, different organic matter, and bring it inside. So this student last semester actually brought some bark inside, and this is done on a tile flooring. Also, if it's not comfortable to be sitting down on the ground or arching your back for an extended period of time, you're welcome again to sit on a table and create it on top of a table surface, or maybe put some cardboard down and use rocks and debris and whatever you want to. These are just ideas to create this work. So this was really neat. This was like a dragon-like serpent, and really neat to see these little small details of bark, how the artist cut, and then of course we have the longer barks that are creating this circular form for that texture and layer. Now this student, I wanted to share this with you guys. This is also in the backyard, but what this student added was actually some wiring. And I know the student mentioned too, she's like, I know that we're supposed to only use organic matter, only from nature, but she just had so much fun exploring, and she went ahead and built this structure. So underneath it is some different types of chicken wire wiring, and then she just kind of created like adobe mud in a way, but really just using the mud, water, and the dirt in the backyard, and then started fusing it together, created a pattern, and just had a lot of fun with the structure. So this is the base here, and it creates these circular structures that overlap one another, and kind of thin in it and kind of flat, you can see on one side, holes, and then having these lines of overcrossing patterns. Here's some other examples. So this was a large rock already. This was done at our old campus where I used to work at in Palm Desert. And so here are some rocks, just kind of not really, almost like discrete, sort of camouflage. This artist went ahead and made a heart, and then actually put some old dead leaves too on top of these cacti. And here are some others. Now I know I mentioned not to put the rocks on the grass, so just be careful if that is your property. You know, that's obviously a different story, or it's good to take the photo and then remove them. It's also neat because when we did take these, or we went to campus and we did this, we would come back and we would see if they were still there. Now, of course, these leaves didn't stay very long, but some of the rocks stayed, and it was fun to see that. I also recommend, if you guys are interested, to bring people and help out. Have friends or family members or children, nieces, nephews, to create the earthwork with you if you'd like to do that. It's a fun collaborative project to get done, and to be honest with you, again, thinking back of childhood, I really enjoyed going outside and playing in the dirt and just making things and getting lost in the environment. So I want you guys to have fun in this experiment, have fun in this artwork, and again, forcing us to use something different than a piece of paper, let's say, and a pencil, but to use actually the earth that we walk over or that we engage in a different capacity and way, and to create a pattern, a shape. There's not a specific meaning that you have to make behind the work. You're welcome to. It's just really having fun making, again, a design, a pattern, a shape, having anything that you want to behind that if you wish to. Please, as always, let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for you guys. Inbox me. And thank you, everyone. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.